Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Governor Kate Warner has sent her own sympathies to the royal family. Her Excellency and the Consul for the United Kingdom signed the Government House condolence book in Hobart, prepared for Prince Philip's passing. They fondly remembered the Duke for his several visits to Tasmania over more than 5 decades.
There was a visit for the bushfires in 1967, one for the bicentenary. There was a Jubilee visit too. So yes, so many visits over that period of time.
People just look up to him as, the service that he did for so many countries, the rest of the realm, the 16 countries of the realm.
The book will now be sent to Buckingham Palace. State election campaigning is gaining momentum, with the Liberals landing on King Island with a chequebook full of promises. Labor was also battling for the seat of Braddon, pledging to bolster services at the Mersey Community Hospital.
On the King Island tarmac.
That is the King Island economy roaring back into life.
It's a cash splash keeping more planes touching down here, extending a deal to underwrite the Hobart to King Island route until March next year.
I think both with word of mouth and further marketing that we will see these flights move to a commercial model over time.
Hoping to lure tourists in while a new biosecurity position aims to keep pests and diseases out. $450,000 will also be pledged to upgrade the skate park and nearby footpaths around Curry. Small infrastructure projects, the Mayor says, play a big role in retaining people on the island.
Well, especially for our youth. They need somewhere to let off a bit of steam, and it's been very, very well used.
Up the road, funding for a new marketing campaign to attract upmarket golfers to one of 3 picturesque courses. It comes as the Premier stands by one player under pressure in his Braddon team, despite Adam Brooks's alleged ammunition offences. An action par for the course, he says, for anyone innocent until proven guilty.
Mr Brooks, when summoned, will appear, but at the end of the day he will vigorously defend that.
Labor saying the candidate should be dumped, but the party is facing another scandal of its own. Clark hopeful Sam Mitchell today apologising for lewd posts on Facebook, saying, "I'm deeply sorry they have found their way into the public domain."
I'm satisfied that he's apologised for content that was inappropriate to publish and has caused offence.
Labor out at Latrobe's Mersey Community Hospital, pledging cash to establish a $2.5 million national centre for rural health and maternity care.
This community is sick and tired of showing up to the emergency department only to find out that there's no doctor, that there's no service, and at times the emergency department is closed.
Meanwhile, the Greens want tougher political donation rules, launching its Strengthening Democracy plan.
Election campaigns should be a contest of ideas and values, not of how much money a political party's been able to obtain from a corporate interest.
The Liberals out again, sampling seafood straight from the boat, promising $3 million to help the sector in its COVID recovery.
These people's business plans have been turned upside down, and there's a whole bunch of stuff and support that they need to consider to ensure they have a future in the industry.
An election campaign gaining momentum almost at the halfway point. Garth Burley, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmania is leading the nation in its coronavirus recovery, according to a new report from Deloitte Access Economics. Our economy grew more than 2% by the end of 2020 compared to a year earlier. The state's economic growth is predicted to jump by just over 5% this year. Local businesses are also hiring. The report finding job ads are rising at the fastest rate in the nation. Welcome back. 1 year ago today, the northwest coast was plunged into Tasmania's toughest COVID lockdown. 10 lives were claimed in the outbreak, which saw the Defence Force take over 2 virus-stricken hospitals. But the region's resilience still overcame heartache and tragedy.
12 months on, the words are still hard to believe.
What this plan will do begins with a closure, a temporary closure and deep clean of the Northwest Regional Hospital and the Northwest Private Hospital.
It started at the end of March as COVID-infected patients arrived at the Northwest Regional Hospital. Over the coming weeks, the virus spread rapidly through staff. Health workers were sent home to quarantine with their families. A staggering 5,000 people self-isolated. Every inch of the hospital received a desperate deep clean. Tasmania needed hope and heroes. It received both. Defence Force and AUSMAT teams took over the hospital in a fight not witnessed before.
We haven't seen this in Australia as yet, certainly not during this period of time. The teams are well prepared.
Patients were transported to Launceston and Latrobe. Compassion overcame fear.
Patients have to be treated somewhere, and patients are people, they are members of our community. They have families, and we're not about to ostracise them and to leave them out on a limb.
Rumours circulated the outbreak had started at a dinner party of health workers, later proven to be completely false. Aged care homes were also on high alert as workers there became infected. Businesses battled to stay open as Burnie became a ghost town.
It's different because you don't have usuals coming in, but we'll still stay open, as long as we can.
It's really been soul destroying, especially for those small businesses out there and the many people that have already lost their jobs. That's really, really difficult.
10 lives would be claimed by the outbreak. All up, 138 people contracted the virus in the region. As the tide turned, the hospital was handed back to health workers.
The AUSMAT and the ADF team came in some fairly challenging circumstances at the beginning of the deployment. I mean, it's been a real privilege for us to be able to deploy here and to support the Tasmanian government. But I'm especially proud of the work that's been done by the AUSMAT, supported by the ADF team.
A report into the outbreak later found it likely started with an infected passenger from the Ruby Princess cruise ship. 37 recommendations were made. What was already known was the incredible effort sacrificed by a community to keep the state safe. Sean McComish, 7 Tasmanian News.
Plans to build a new Northwest Museum and Art Gallery in Burnie have been scrapped. More than a year after the first designs were released, the council has announced it will instead use the funding to refurbish the Burnie Arts and Function Centre. Mayor Steve Conn said the council is no longer in a position to deliver the initial project, and the new plan is more financially viable. He's helped deliver dozens of babies by the side of the road, witnessed the horrors of workplace hazards and felt the love of people he's saved. Now, after nearly 50 years of service, Georgetown's veteran paramedic Mike Barringer has flicked off the flashing lights for the last time, but not without a final salute from the town.
For decades, Mike Barringer has been Georgetown's go-to guy. Now, on his 65th birthday, the veteran paramedic is going out. So long a steady hand in terrible traumas and in some cases the difference between life and death.
We used to have some horrific industrial accidents here, burns and all that type of thing, and big car accidents.
And it was witnessing a car crash 46 years ago which convinced Mike to choose this career.
I just felt so useless with multiple casualties and all that sort of business, so I went along to the ambulance station in Launceston on the Monday and joined up.
That moment of helplessness inspired a lifetime of helping.
Delivered probably between 25 and 30 babies, but none of them have ever been called Michael.
Not even his friend and colleague of 40 years calls him that.
SAM stands for Short Ambulance Man. That's why he's standing up there.
I've had some laughs and some sad times, but more laughs than sad times.
Through all the tough times of paramedic life, it's his wife Lisa who got him through. He even proposed to her at the ambulance station.
I certainly wouldn't be here now if it wasn't for my wife and family support.
And from the Georgetown community, a final congrats on a job well done. Enjoy your retirement, Ambo Mike. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmanian News.
Well, the Children's Festival is returning to the Tasmanian Museum and Art Gallery after it was cancelled last year. The event, titled Lift Off, will feature all the wonders of science and the natural world, with one performance bringing children face to face with creatures on the brink of extinction.
Even though it is sad, it then encourages people to try and make a difference so that these animals don't become extinct.
It's really exciting, this particular festival, given that we've missed it. I think like everybody producing major cultural events and festivals, it just feels really exciting to be back into it.
The festival opens tomorrow and runs until Friday.
Let's take a look at the Crips TSL Player of the Year votes now after round 2. Kingborough skipper Lockie Clifford has announced his return with 3 votes against Lauderdale. And there they are, 3 votes for Lockie Clifford. Meanwhile, Glenorchy's Ben Camrick was best on ground against Clarence, and Daniel Withers was the star for North Launceston against the D's. It's been an even spread of talent over the first 2 rounds, with 6 players sharing the lead. Tasmania is entering a momentous week of sport, with A-League, NBL and Supercars all about to take place in the state. Eager to gain a foothold here, the visiting Codes will be closely watching how the games go. You couldn't pick a better backdrop to introduce drought-breaking A-League and W-League clashes to the state.
Yeah, really good for us as Calder and us to, create a community with Tasmania.
Calder will be the rival though on the weekend. The visitors are playing a Tasmanian side pulled together from the Women's Super League.
I think it's a great opportunity for all of us. I think we're all really looking forward to it, like a chance to test ourselves against some really strong opposition.
Tasmania's last A-League game in 2013 was well before Western United came to be. And as Tasmania campaigns for its own side in the competition, the A-League will be watching the Tassie experiment closely.
They'll be looking at all aspects of it. They'll be looking at the way in which Western United are going about building that engagement, which has been tremendous.
Across town, the Perth Wildcats warmed up ahead of another drought breaker, Tasmania's first NBL game since 2005, which is tomorrow night against the New Zealand Breakers.
I know of the support that Tasmania has for basketball. There's obviously some fantastic Tasmanian products still playing in the league.
Perth's visit is timely. Many players know Jack Jumpers coach Scott Roth well. He was the assistant coach of the Wildcats before taking the Tasmanian gig.
What he sort of brings, his knowledge, what he brings from overseas is, you can pick his brain all day, I suppose. So, yeah, what he's going to bring to the Jack Jumpers next year is going to be exciting, and I'm excited to see how he does. I'm sure he'll do really well.
The NBL's reigning most valuable player, Bryce Cotton, will be on court tomorrow night, where the Wildcats will seek a return to glory after their 9-game winning streak was broken in their last game.
Good evening. A cool day for Hobart today, registering 15 degrees. The northern centre's up to 18. That was the state's high as well. Mount Wellington the low with -2 as most temperatures sat between 1 and 4 degrees below average. Lowhead 17, St Helens Friendly Beaches and the Islands 16. Bushy Park and Strawn 15 today and Lyawini 9. Cloud moved over most of the state today. The north did have splashes of sunshine. There is an extensive area of cloud stretching over the Southern Ocean from Western Australia, plenty happening over there. An onshore flow brought cloud to Victoria. Tomorrow a cold front approaches, helping produce a northerly airstream over us, a couple of troughs over the mainland to the north and west. Those northerlies fairly stiff tomorrow, up to 20 to 30 knots over the east and south and to 35 knots down the west coast. So we have a gale warning there from Southeast Cape to Sandy Cape, a strong wind warning for waters between St Helens Point and Southeast Cape, and also from Sandy Cape to Stanley. Hobart, a high of 19, a late shower moving in, same for Adventure Bay, but 17 the top and 14 for Tarraleah. Launceston 17 with showers developing, Devonport 18 degrees along with Bridport. For Burnie tomorrow, a high of 17 degrees with late showers and the winds picking up. Same for Strawn, 18 the high and 19 the top for Marrawar. St Helens, a late shower possibly, 18 the top, 19 for Swansea. Partly cloudy on Flinders Island, Whitemark 19 degrees. On Wednesday, showers contracting to the west and south from late afternoon, gusty winds tending westerly. Partly cloudy over the north and east on Thursday, a few showers elsewhere and snow to 800 metres. Fine and partly cloudy for most. On Friday, as showers contract to western areas. Partly cloudy in Perth, a windy day in Adelaide with a late shower, a cloudy, windy day for Melbourne. Canberra expecting a frost, sunny and mid-20s in Sydney and Brisbane. And cloudy conditions currently around all the traps. And Kim, just like me, I guess you're recovering from a fairly chilled weekend.
Chilled, it was freezing. Thank you very much, Murph. Turn that heat pump on. And that is all your news for this evening. Have a great night. See you next time. Good night.